All right, so it appears that we have the final cover of Chainsaw Man Volume 24, and I completely forgot to make a video about like the ending of Chainsaw Man because I meant to make one, but I never did, and now it's like way too late to do one. So just know my thoughts about the ending of Chainsaw Man. I didn't like it. I didn't like how fast we went from like the final fight between Denji and Asa to the ending. I think there should have been more involved with how everything went, but Chainsaw Man's over unless we're getting to part three. But I think Chainsaw Man's officially over. So it had a great run. It just did not land the ending like a lot of other shows that have come and went to where they start out really good, but the ending is usually not the best. And unfortunately, Chainsaw Man is now in that bracket. But, anyways, that's quickly getting my thoughts on the ending. Anyways, so we have the final cover of Chainsaw Man, which is a spoiler because um at the end of Chainsaw Man, Denji gets an eye patch. He gets his eye patch back because spoilers. Puchta sacrifices himself basically to erase himself so that way Denji can live a normal life or something. I don't remember. Some shit like that. But yeah, so this is spoiling. I'm not really spoiling because the volume covers don't have to follow strictly what happens in the show, but yeah. So yeah, I like the way it looks. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people aren't, and a lot of people are gonna be like, "This is a spoiler," which I mean, it is, but I don't hate it. People were saying it's a reference to like volume 11 or something, but yeah, it's sad to say that this is like the final cover for Chainsaw Man. But yeah, let's see what people are talking about with this. I know some of the comments are basically saying how it looks ugly and stuff. Cause I kind of saw this when I was scrolling, but yeah. Okay, that's pretty hard. So am I after seeing this. I have a twin. What happens if you bake a whole pasta ball like it's bread, hard as a rock? Me too, just thinking about it. Asa, is that you? This is that is a really good cover. Not gonna lie, I like how he sticks his tongue out. Yeah, bro's over doing the flight reacts. That's crazy. I still can't believe this is over. Is there gonna be an epilogue chapter one after the volume actually comes out? There's been no mention of this. Don't expect anything. He didn't do that for Fire Punch. Yeah, that is true because after basically once the final chapter of Fire Punch came out, that was it. Which is still a very confusing manga to read. But yeah, who knows? He could do one with this because Chainsaw Man is a lot popular than Fire Punch, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Yeah, I think Fuji's basically just like Chainsaw Man's been running for a really long time, and I think now I'm just ready to rid my hands of it. But you never know. Wait for volume release for the extras and updated panels. He can do that for Fire Punch. That'll get your hopes up. At least the cover looks fire. The ending was good if you ignore everything bad. First bad take from Naya. Of course. Again, like, yeah, it was just. I still think the ending of Chainsaw Man was rushed. Obviously, I think everyone felt the same way. Like I said earlier, just from how fast everything moved from. I'm going to say from Yoshida dying because all that happened so fast. It was, you know, actually, no, from like the last time we saw Quan Chi, because that happened, and then I'm pretty sure after that, it was like shortly after that, uh, wow. I can't remember his name. Nayuda Bloom. That's not his name. Whatever. Emo guy blew himself up, and then Denji ate Barum, and then after that, it was like Denji versus Asa for the final time, and then ending. It's like Yoshida's his name. Yeah, Yoshida. Like it just happened way too fast, and I get it. Fuji probably wanted to end the series, but at the same time, you can't end a series that fast, and you know, expect people not to be upset about like how fast everything moved. But yeah. Same color panels as chapter 11. What do you know? Okay, I think this is what I was talking about. Yeah. So it's a reference to this, obviously. Damn. But yeah, obviously it's a reference to that. Peak volume chapter. Amazing. You mean the final cover until part 3, right? Holy copium, I am all here for. I'm addicted to this substance as well. The fact it is mirroring Denji's post from Volume 11 gives me hope that this is just the end of another phase in Denji's journey, not the entire series. Part 1 ends with more confident Denji, who finally has a reason for being. Part 2 ends with Denji regressing back to his normal self, figuratively prior to Pucha's erasure, and afterwards, literally. Maybe Part 3 ends with his back to the cover, showing that he's content with his journey. I mean, that would be great. That would be great if we did get a part 3 of Chainsaw Man, but it's been a while since it ended, and I would imagine if we were getting a part 3, it would be announced at the end of quote unquote part 2 of Chainsaw Man, because at the last chapter that we have currently, it just says the end. It doesn't say to be continued, it says the end. And you would think Fuji would say, hey guys, we're doing a part 3, but that hasn't happened in a couple months. So I like to believe that this is the end of Chainsaw Man, unfortunately. We've closed the circle. Perfect way to end it, but I feel like I've been kicking the balls one last time. Fujimoto, like, you're welcome. He thinks we're like him. That's funny. He gave our balls a little smooch after repeatedly crushing them. I don't think that's the case. I don't think I'm not gonna get into this topic, but I don't think after all of the stuff we've been through with Chainsaw Man, I don't think Fuji is kissing our balls, being like, "Yeah, man, this is the end of the story." Like, no, like, cause he didn't explain a lot of stuff. Like, where was Kishibe? What happened to Quan Chi? I just knocked him over. Like, there was a lot of things that weren't explained in part 2 that should have been explained, but they weren't. What happened to Asa in the timeline before the end of it? Anyways, yeah. I said I was gonna have spoilers on it, and it does. I mean, it's sort of a spoiler, but not really. Badass cover, not gonna lie, such a shame. It represents like 10 pages of what could have been an entire arc if we lived in a better timeline. Peak, fire cover, so much fucking aura. Holy shit. I kind of hope it's not going to. What? I kind of hope it's not going to get the 3/5 variants like My Hero and JJK. It would have been cool as fuck, but they're like impossible to get anywhere in Europe. Does JJK have that? I didn't realize that it had 3 variants. That's cool though, but I was none the wiser. Holy moly, pretty good. Really nice opposite contrasts to Volume 11. Part 2 had some of my favorite covers. I love the simplicity and shocking colors they used. Now that's fucking legendary. I need more Chainsaw Man. I can't function without Chainsaw Man. At least we got a fire cover. All right. But yeah, to wrap up, this is the final chapter, the final volume cover of Chainsaw Man. Again, I enjoy the way it looks. It just sucks that, you know, the final chapter, the ending wasn't the best in the world, but you know, we live in a time to where essentially if a show is really good, the ending is usually not going to be that good. So, at some point we all just have to come together and realize that we shouldn't, like, the ending of a show should not like ruin the whole manga, but sometimes it can, depending on how bad the ending is. Does it do that for Chainsaw Man with me? Not really, but just leading up to the ending of it, it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth, because it's like, I know how the story ends, and it's kind of just like, this happens way too fast. But hey, like I always say, at least the author was alive to see its story end, unlike other authors, Thor, unfortunately. They pass away before their stories end. So at least we have that. And, you know, if Fuji wants to, he can make something else. Probably not, because, you know, he did Fire Punch and then Chainsaw Man. I don't think he's going to do anything else, but if he isn't, I definitely do appreciate Chainsaw Man. It was a really great thing. It was really good. Once again, it just sucks the ending wasn't that great, but it was really good. It had its moments. But yeah. Again, I meant to cover the ending of Chainsaw Man when it came out, but I had so many overwhelming feelings that I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna cover this because I just don't want to. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the final cover for Chainsaw Man? What were your thoughts on the ending of Chainsaw Man? And who was your favorite character in Chainsaw Man? Obviously, I'm gonna say Denji because main character, yada yada yada. He's funny. Power was second. Power was really good. Not the power in the final chapter because it's a whole new power, but like OG power, the one that we met in whatever chapter, that one. And yeah, Chainsaw Man, the final manga cover. I wonder when all this is gonna get animated, and if whenever it does, if they're gonna do something a little bit different with it, but they're probably not. They're probably just gonna keep it exactly the same. But I guess we'll see in about 10 years when this stuff gets animated. wait a wait a minute. 10 years. 10 years at least. Oh my gosh. Oh no, no way.